Frick. I forgot about the event happening here. What's it called again? Tower defense? Tower theater? Movie of metals? Film choreography? Nagaraya. This will be over with quickly.
Seems like I should have just stayed in bed today.
And soaked to the bone after a stormy week, and then slap their buttered hands onto a welcoming mattress? Well then, my friend, this would be a perfect night to exercise your knowledge of vampires, and to teach you what a vampire's perfect midnight lunch run plan is. Normally, vampires end up getting attacked in their own castles by parties who've prepared to kill them. We've seen that, a lot. Vampires almost need to be weakened by external forces because of how cool they're meant to be, and even in stories, their deaths are caused by happenstance or planning, and not actually because the vampire's weak. Go watch, like, all of Part 2, or This Thing in Adventure Time, or this show, and you'll know what I mean. Down the road, I might even try a
Vegetable, but
confrontation
they
with
showed
party
the
attacks
backpack for
during
the
day,
enemy.
maybe even siding with the vampire, but for now, let's set up an ambush on a bush party. Here's the inn that your party is hoping to enjoy a long rest at. Let's make these guys really quick. Facing a challenge rating of 13. Add 1 vampire spawn, a second one, party of 3, carry the 2, save the pet dog. Let's make them level 15. I've got my randomized team. Long Smoke the Wizard, Titty Slap the Ham-Boning Bard, and the only name I didn't actually have to change, Hermo Cherry Cheeks, the Halfling Cleric. They're gonna need a cleric for this. Now for the vampire.
Obviously.
Most of them like to set up a castle and a good stock of reliable food, but sometimes a new vampire is born and has to get that business actually started up. I think the easiest way to do this is to make our vampire an ex-thrall of another one, who stole his master's blood, turning his own wife and hitting the road as quietly and quickly as possible. But now him and his little team are hungry, thirsty. So the party stops in, flirts with the innkeeper, and then goes to bed.
Okay, so this is actually hilarious.
During his nightly travel and sees the opportunity. So let's get this thing started. They get a free round 1. Vampires have this ability that lasts for 1 hour,
Oh.
but is much better when
They're on your
activated
own.
outside, so we'll do that. Bing, bang, boom, and oh my god, there's 15 wolves. That's not my fault, we'll keep them. Now he has to get inside. With some soft taps on the door, the innkeeper waits up at her desk and politely makes the largest mistake of her life. She opens the door. Vampires can't enter unless invited, but they can charm people looking at beforehand. Out in the task. Forcing friendship, but not directly forcing the upcoming invitation inside. Welcome now the vampire and his wife, the thrall that I mentioned before. We're gonna abuse this charm ability and have the vampire methodically and quietly gather up people and invite them to his birthday party, making forced friendships in bedrooms like a greasy Uncle Epstein. The new friends get to wait outside. We'll do this until he fails, which he did here per my roles, and because this is a bard. We'll let the victim land first before the vampire pulls some real tactical shit.
Of course the
Or
bard is
your
the one
Roman
that
boner
fucking
titty slap
succeeds.
is gonna drop a 5th level dissonant whisper, probably subconsciously mumbling about his wet dream just before he woke up.
Mickey Mouse comes in, drains all my battery from my iPod.
That'll deal some psychic damage to me. But the vampire has crazy saves, and he gets like a 19. No, back to our antagonist, who's right here. He goes mist mode and slips out the window to start the real attack. Noting the nasty, stinky red mist, his gorgeous wife enters the tavern to make sure nobody weak escapes.
Calling down the thunder.
The Lord absolutely blasts
I see
a
everything.
that wakes up the rest of our guests, and then probably waits
Whirling
for them to
snow.
the bar. Outside, our vampire reverses his form and directs a chain of 15 wolves to bottleneck the hallway and really hammer in some DPS before the actions fight. Here's my initiative order so they can don't get too lost. The wizard, awake and baked, steps out to see the oncoming chain of wolves. Assuming that there's only like 5 wolves, Long Smoke drops a 4th level magic missile, deleting 2 of them and injuring a 3rd. While the beloved wife waits at the door, our cleric is gonna fling open their own bravely, cherry cheeks freezing in the night wind. The good beings, and understanding the gravity of the situation, Butterbun is gonna go ahead and cast Beacon. Also, the gnome steps out of his room, smelling like he maybe might have definitely shit his pants. Round 3. Hambone slaps his jaw once to inspire the cleric, and then perfectly performs the Moses Claire de Lune acapella style. This 6th level save spell puts 6 wolves out of combat for now. Turning it over to Draculacar, he spams the fart form ability and sneaks back into the Stink Gnome's room to perform a pincer attack in the next round. Oh, would you look at that, there's 8 wolves. Stumbling over their sleeping and dead friends, they can't even fucking reach the party without dashing. Isn't that exciting? But hey, the vampire's first move stole like 3 spell slots. The wizard's up again, and unfortunately in front. We've got some AoE spells, but to not wake anyone up, Bomb Smoke's gonna rain down some daggers, effectively putting up a wall that insta-kills anything below 11 hit points like a wolf. Great, I'm very glad that I had them as a part of this encounter. Let's have the wife fill in, using her spider climb to look super goddamn creepy. The cleric is up, and we'll have these bright red glutes prepare a secret spell. The gnome goes back into his room and shuts the door to change his pants. Round 4. Titty slapped Hamboning resonates too hard, and he has effectively deleting himself from the combat. Finally, it's the villain's turn, reverting his form and regaining the legendary actions I definitely didn't forget about. At this point, the gnome is just gonna quietly cry in the corner as the vampire exits his room. Oops, the cleric prepared daylight, and that's going off now that the vampire is here. My favorite. That's gonna be 20 DPR to both my creepers and disadvantage for them. This spell doesn't even fucking need concentration. In response to that, legendarily, the vampire chops his external carotid artery, managing to slurp some juice and end the beacon of hope. The wolves are gonna go ahead and just back down and stand there and wait. At this moment, Bong Smoke's head turns lazily, and he drops the absolute fattest power word stun I've ever seen. Oh my god, the vampire cannot even legendarily resist this. It's our wife's turn, and she instantly burns for 20 radiant damage before she rushes to attack Bong Smoke, taking an extra 12 damage from the blades before failing to give the pothead
Excuse me?
a key. Great. She ducks into this room. Whatever. Thank you, Daylight. Look, it's Cherry Cheeks, who is ruining my entire demonstration. They're gonna go ahead and find it appropriate to drop heaven itself on the vampire with an 8th level guiding bolt. I'm gonna screen cap this roll. Okay, that's not my fault, though. I'm very happy. This is going on too long. I almost got lost. The gnome who changed his pants shits again. Titty Slap. He cracks open the door next to him and tells the vampire's wife about his medical problems, effectively performing an 8th level disc-whisk. That's a fail. She got 50 hit points. Here's another live roll. Okay. She's been here for 12 seconds and she has 10 hit points left. I don't want to know what he said. The vampire's turn immediately gets wasted, but he breaks free from the bong stare with a legendary resistance and also takes 1 damage. The wolves are stuck. Back to fucking... Why does the wizard have sunbeam? Fuck the cleric. What the fuck? They both beat the save, take 15 damage, and the knives end. It's not the wizard's fault, he's high. Our good vampire friend legendarily hides in the room with the poop man from the sunlight. Our wife, who is also out of the sunlight, can't regain 10 hit points this turn, and fucking leaves through the window. Oh, look at that, our friend legendarily sucked up some poop man blood. Titty Slap returns from the other dimension and teleports into the vampire room. Wait, do bards have no attack roll spells? How did I not know this? Who cares? 4th level spell goes off, legendary resistance, because it doesn't matter, and Titty Slap vanishes again. The annoyed vampire, who has essentially dealt and taken no damage, about to lose his wife, does the same thing that I'm gonna do. He throws up his hands, says fuck these absolute weirdos, and refuses to wait 1 hour for a 3rd level spell to end. I had this whole thing planned with his coffin outside under the tree with this scroll that was waiting there the whole time. And you didn't notice and he's right there. But no. Fuck clerics, vampires suck ass, and he escapes with...
I don't think this team is really working out.
He escapes
Sayu
with
already
5
shreds
potential
hydro resistance.
thralls, who
I don't think I
each
need to
outrank
rely too
5
much
in exactly 2 days after he buries them. Actually, that's kind of really
on
cool.
boom damage.
Vampires
I don't
are
need to change
absolutely
Yalan, it's
awful in
Nahida
so
I
many
need to
conventional
change.
ways, but Christ. He walked away with a major net gain and a wife who didn't even die. That was so lame, but it was really scary. That's the video. I took a break there to set up, and now there's a dog's toes clacking around my house because I'm dog sitting. Thank you, Dax.
I'll try this. Why not? That's a good enough looking ratio. It's kind of surprising how I haven't gotten a single
A blade embraces its duty.
roll in Elemental Mastery. on all of these artifacts, which is great because elemental mastery is worthless on Ayaka. Of course, a few HP in defense rolls, but these are still all pretty good. All things considered.
Ad Astra Abyssosk. Thank you for completing today.
Blackcliff actually won't be such a bad idea to have for Yelan. She technically already has enough elemental mastery, or energy recharge, to sustain herself.
Rebooting.
One last time. Oh.
Paid for by the company. Dozens of Yupa workers will get married all at once, while thousands of co-workers watch. Holy shit, that's crazy.
If we get married here, I'll stave off depression from being literally married to my job by remembering that lots of pathetic Americans get married in places like Disney World or the National Corvette Museum.
A mass wedding is an ingenious way for Yupa to strengthen their indoctrination policies.
This realm is
In the
truly...
next part, we'll look at the food in Yupa, because I don't know how to end this. Goodbye! At Factory City, the day has barely begun, and yet people are already being loaded into trucks. Chef Jing Mei Lee already faces his first deadline.
If you ever have any...
But
Lee
didn't I
runs
recently
one of
get
5
Project
independent
10 on
restaurants at
someone,
Yupa.
and then I had to replace them?
Competition between them
Was it
is named
Lisa?
hits. Profits are terrible, and the food quality even worse. In Lee's eyes, he's not just serving meals, but creating workable sustenance out of edible trash. When they don't eat well or eat enough, then they won't have enough energy to force down my food. It's a vicious cycle. It all starts with the meat, beef, pork, factory worker, then vegetables like bok choy, onions, carrots, wintermelon, and albino brains. We have all fresh seasonal vegetables here, except corn. Stop asking if we have any fucking corn. We don't have it, we won't have it, suck my dick. Even though Yupa cranks out millions of food appliances every year, everything in Lee's kitchen is done by hand. 9 a.m. is known as slime time in this kitchen, because it's when everything starts sliding around to prep for service. I don't have enough slime! 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 In 2 minutes, a woman from the Ketchup and Mustard Bureau will deliver some condiments. And now, in about 2 hours, 6,000 employees will want those condiments on their lunch. Today's menu consists of chunky oil, beef slab, and great
Quietly now.
The Temple of Wisdom!
Add in some mystery ingredients, and you've got home cooking. Chicken bones and corn pops are turned into hundreds of delicious
Take
dishes.
flight!
I don't have enough slime! I don't have enough slime! Complete dishes from Szechuan, Yunnan, Asian regions.
Here comes the catch. Gotcha.
You need to make chicken tenders for picky children.
Whirling snow.
We're hoping to eventually use Western
Coming to
cuisine,
land.
but currently I don't have enough slime! These obsessions
Share my knowledge!
comes from growing up hungry.
Everyone hold hands!
I
Busted.
don't
Gotcha.
have enough slime!
Take flight.
Bones in every kitchen fixing is now an abundant supply. And Lee is able
These are about to
every
get
single
dicey.
worker
Ninjutsu!
very slim to the extra fat. Lee's passion for slapping Leslie is second to none. No cook acts and no dish leaves Lee's kitchen without his personal approval. It's slightly bland. It needs some salt or some chicken stock or maybe even some chicken salt. The special today is regurgitated pork. If you use meat that's already been eaten, it's cheaper because you don't have to pay for the luxury of chewing. There's lots of ways you can save money in a kitchen, such as not having enough slime. Lee says if the pork isn't nearly liquid in texture, he sends it right back. The chefs know one thing. No matter how many corners I cut, or how cheaply I find the food, it's still better than eating at Burger King. It's almost 10 a.m., and the red team still hasn't served a single entree. Meanwhile, in the blue kitchen, Chef Lee has noticed a potentially serious mistake. I noticed they undercooked the Wellington, and now table 6 is going to get pushed back. This could throw off all of tonight's dinner service. Did I mention I'm out of slime? By 11 a.m., they load all the dishes into the back of a truck, which will slosh and spill around as the truck starts to move. Competition between the 5 restaurants at Yuba keeps prices low, although Lee's is without a doubt the most popular, as the 4 other restaurants are Burger King. Meals cost only 50 cents through company subsidy, which makes profit margins incredibly slim. Mr. Lee only has one obsession that keeps him up at night, and it's not the food, nor the profits. Oh, this is actually my part-time job. Full-time, I'm an astronaut for China's Space Force. I don't think I was supposed to be on Mars today. What's today? The 14th? Yeah, no, we're good. I've still got a week. It's not long after lunch that Mr. Lee gets a call from the Chinese Space Force. They left without me. The launch was yesterday. Shit. Feeding workers at Yuba is tough. But know what's even tougher? Trying to find Waldo before we fade to black. At the world's largest factory, 17,000 people live and work inside 1.8 square kilometers. Rush hour is a human trafficking jam, where just getting to work on time is a job in its own. Inside the Yuba compound, workers and managers need to learn to get along on a massive scale, especially the employees who don't like Chinese people. The man managing all of these work relations has an exhaustive list of tough duties, including teaching everyone the synchronized employee clap. Yaxin Fu is the manager of employee needs at Yuba, including their recreation equipment, home amenities, and living cages. I have to find a balance between the employees' demands and the company's budget. The employees want beds for sleeping and fresh food to eat, while the company thinks a large bed of straw can cover both of those needs at once. It's a delicate balance. Leading them is like raising children. You should only beat them just enough to not kill them. Yuba's workers come from every part of China, including Beijing, Tibet, Shanghai, Xinjiang, the Senkaku Islands, Wuhan, and Mongolia. Wages back in the cities are typically higher, but Yuba's near monopoly on China's supply of the color yellow incentivizes workers to sign up and receive an employee uniform worth nearly $800 on the local market. Mr. Fu's job is to meet every employee's demand. In the last month, he's thrown 1,652 birthday parties, organized 200 major gaming tournaments, and wrangled up 17 different ponies. We're now going to the workers' dormitory. It always smells like piss, and I've been stabbed here twice. But for the employees, it's home. Fu is the landlord, but also in charge of decoration for these rooms. He doesn't try very hard. Average rent is only $6 per month, but the type of accommodation depends on their social credit score, otherwise known as Chinese fun bucks. Fu pays a visit to Ji Wao to remind her that gang fighting must be done only during designated gang fighting hours. Fu's primary mode of transportation is the Fu-mobile, a highly modified American golf cart capable of doing nearly 90 miles an hour.
Most of the time, I use the Fu-mobile to drive between the dormitories and the cafeteria. Sometimes during slower work days, I take the Fu-mobile on the highway and see just how fast I can push it. I got it to top out at 93 once. That was a wild ride. One time on the freeway, I gave my buddy OJ a ride, and that didn't turn out too well.
Yupa has very strict rules guiding food vendors. With so many competitive restaurants, food selling is designated by zones and by permits. Alongside managing living quarters and providing for employees, Mr. Fu's third duty is kicking ass. Mr. Fu spots an illegal food cart and sizes up his opponent. This woman is a foot shorter than Fu, so he's about to turn her asshole inside out. Off camera, he snaps her neck. Fu spies another cart, but this one happens to have all the proper permits. This woman's colostomy bag proves that she's tussled with Fu before, so she was careful not to make the same mistake twice. Fu makes sure that this restaurant is serving food and not reconstituted garbage like last time.
My current kill count is 41 broken bones, 6 concussions, 14 knockouts, 2 fatalities, and once I hit someone so hard they threw up. I made him eat it. You won't fuck with me again.
But there is one thing Fu wishes he could participate in alongside his employees. Soccer. 80% of Yupa's employees play soccer, but unfortunately, Mr. Fu isn't one of them.
I wish I could play soccer with everyone else. I even dream of it. But unfortunately, I just don't have any damn legs.
Not into soccer or a double amputee like Mr. Fu? There's plenty of other activities for your leisure at Yupa.
Oh, there's plenty of other things to do. We also have a basketball hoop. And,
Life at Yupa is hard. Work is regulated. Food is regulated. And even the housing is regulated. Because if it's not, who is there to dish out a regular-sized ass beating?
women, children, my bosses, I don't give a shit. If you break my rules, I'm gonna slap you around. In fact, I think the sound guy for this interview is not properly wearing the standard employee uniform. When we wrap up here, I'll probably kick a couple teeth in to let him know just what I think of those pajama pants he just tried to slip past me.
Up next, we look at how Yupa adapts to survive pressures from the outside world. In the global marketplace, there's no room for second best. To survive, companies need a competitive edge. Like most China-based companies, Yupa has copied their design plans from others and produced them using cheaper parts and labor. But recently, they also learned how to pirate Blender and want to use it to make products of their own. Yupa has to create a new generation of products to survive in this harsh capitalistic climate. Otherwise, their entire staff will be assimilated into a makeshift military branch and be forced to invade the coasts of Japan by 2052.
Yeah, look mate, well I've played a bunch of Warzone, so I think I'm ready to fire that gun at any bloke you point me at.
Shirong Pen is another nerd we spoke to, and is Vice President of Product Innovation.
Have you ever used those little corn on the cob holders? I invented them. You're welcome.
Mr. Penn says his staff are usually too poor to afford corn on the cob, but he's proud of them nonetheless. Mr. Penn's team holds countless meetings about studying Yupa product consumers.
I remind my staff every meeting of all the wonderful things I've invented. Fuzzy slippers, OxyClean, trapdoor shoes, cocaine, the Pokemon Silcoon and Cascoon, spiders, gravy, the Declaration of Independence, and China.
Penn and his designers are making a new solar-powered product, because we as a
I might be
society have
stronger
finally
with
begun to realize that
more
sunlight
attack
is totally
for
free.
now.
Remember that time I invented the sun? You do now. Just be grateful I let you use it without charge.
Going
Right.
solar may seem obvious and affordable, but But when your country houses 9 different cities with smog levels 10 times higher than World Health Organization guidelines, sunlight is a precious commodity, and you've got to design for it.
I'm very proud to be working on a
And
product
if
that
they
I
were
invented,
yesterday.
inside a factory that I invented, alongside the employees that I invented, using technology that I invented to invent things.
Using the design specs, a computerized rinsing machine, filling machine, cuts a foam cast. And the cast is converted into a baby's toilet seat. Smoothing out this seat is this man's only job.
Coffee, stairs, the Galapagos Islands. It's incredible what you can invent when you only sleep 2 hours a night.
Now engineers must... Hey, what's with the subtitles? That's not what I'm saying. I've been narrating this program for 9 fucking years, and you guys can't even properly align the subtitles with my script. Are you joking? This is one of the most unprofessional productions I've ever been on, and I hope the studio shuts this entire thing down. Okay, thank you. And finally, Mr. Penn's masterpiece is ready to be revealed. What the hell is that thing? Okay, wait, he's swapping some parts here. Maybe it's not finished. Nope. What am I looking at?
Since this is my last interview, I think I'll just list everything I've ever invented. Allen wrenches, gerbil feeders, toilet seats, electric heaters, trash compactors, juice extractor, shower rods and water meters, walkie-talkies, copper wires.
If these strange, nearly useless inventions ever catch on, Cuba could eventually form its own self-serving government and rise up to become its own nation independent of China. Because that always works successfully. It seems impossible to believe, but with Factory City in full swing, and other modern factories following its example, more products than ever may be boasting a Made in China label. Factory City represents an almost unimaginable form of productivity, having your workplace also dominate your home, social, and culinary life. For most Americans, the idea seems unthinkable. Instead, they'd rather go the sensible route of monetizing all of their hobbies, sharing every single part of their day to strangers online, and spending all of their time outside of work or school trying to figure out how to make more money. We hope you've enjoyed this look into China's strange and foreign workforce. Now stay tuned for our highest rated show. Dramatized versions of people you'll never know get paid to embarrass themselves for your amusement because you're better than them. It has revolutionized the way we work, play, travel, and communicate. It touches almost every part of our lives. It has already helped us win wars, solve seemingly insolvable problems, and launch us into space. Most people today own a personal computer, along with a mouse, a monitor, 2 keyboards, and everything else it needs to run. A computer has input devices, such as a mouse and keyboard, the brains of the machine, known as the CPU, or Central Processing Unit, and output devices, such as a printer, or the StarOffice.com Office Productivity Suite. A binary code of 1s and 0s is all the computer knows and uses to make calculations, and allows users to do anything from office work to playing the latest video games, such as the Half-Life trilogy. But every computer, from warehouse-filling supercomputers to the one in your own home,
I think
can trace its ancestral
my
lineage
Hyperbeam
back
team
to
is
a
still
man,
my strongest
a
and
man
fastest team
who
to use
loved
too.
choo-choo trains. Charles Babbage was an English scientist who invented the cow piercer, a long metal wedge placed in front of trains to slice the heavy cows that wandered onto the tracks, so that the train wouldn't derail. Babbage is also considered by many to be the
Ain't
father
having
of
your drink. Huh, think you can stand clear.
Being the scientist,
Take flight.
Babbage relied on logarithmic and gravity charts to calculate everything, from the meals he ate to the clothes he wore to his sex life. The humans transfer people, called computers, since there were no computers to call people.
Gotcha. Quietly now.
Unfortunately, these human computers often made mistakes,
Here
which
comes the
really
catch.
pissed Babbage off.
Enhanced animal
After being
models.
told he couldn't legally
Whirling
starve
snow.
his employees to death, Babbage knew he needed another solution. He first envisioned a complex series of gears, shafts, whirligigs, doodads, and spinsters that worked together
Yeah, I'm
to make
actually dealing
calculations.
damage now.
After 10 years of work, however, he got bored and decided to design something else. A machine that possessed
If
all
your
the
attack
basic
is only
components
one,
of
then no
modern
matter,
computers.
then your multipliers can only
Mechanisms
do
and
so
punch
much.
cards on this machine performed calculations that were considered too complex for terrestrial life. And so, Babbage dubbed his creation the Alienware Computer. Producing the Alienware Computer would have proved too expensive for Babbage, however, as he noticed all the components needed for it at the time were vastly overpriced. And so, the machine was never built. It would be well over 100 years before anyone ever thought again to make a programmable computation device. 1890,
Oh,
the year
lead the
of
way.
immigrants.
Follow me.
9 million immigrants.
Wait for
and
my
the
signal.
U.S. Census was not prepared. For the 1880 census, the U.S. Census Bureau had submitted a single piece of paper to the U.S. government that simply read, "Fuck man, I don't know, like a lot of people?" And the government wasn't going to accept that for the 4th year in a row. The government was in a tight bind. They were desperate to hire a scientist to find a solution to this
This is
problem,
fine.
but not so desperate that they were willing to overturn the law forcing all scientists to have incredibly impressive mustaches. Enter Herman Hollerith. Herman Hollerith, former DeVry University instructor, developed an incremental person counting machine. Essentially, the machine would count each person who
There's
entered
one last thing I
America
want to
and
try
add
out.
that count to a stored data point they fulfilled, such as race, sex, and age, all displayed in a series of clock-like dials.
Busted. Quietly now.
In just 6 weeks, the 1890 census count of 32,482,803 was completed.
Out of my way.
But it was all
Game's
by a
up.
little
Time
under
is
20
over.
million.
Busted.
Because of this, Hollerith went on to do absolutely nothing important, and history regarded him as a failure. But 50 years later, enter World War Motherfucking 2.
Gotcha.
Stay put. Our bond is strong.
Armed with fast hands so their husbands wouldn't complain, data entrants would use mechanical devices to keep track of the population, such as tallying up railroad passengers, life insurance policies, and KY jelly rations. But the first electronic digital computers were built with a much more compelling aim in mind: winning, or at least getting second place in, a world war. One of the earliest machines was proposed by the British to break the famous German encryption code known as the Scheisse code. One of the people who worked to break the code was famed homosexual Alan Turing. His work before the war on the Nintendo Entertainment System established a theoretical basis for the computers built in the 1930s. Arguments, the
Sakura
now
swirl.
strategic mobile game.
I'll settle this.
Quietly now. Gotcha.
Hey, go! Don't be scared. You play.
Quietly now.
My apologies. So rude. Yeah. Stay put. Stand with me.
Busted.
I think Dendro Traveler
Take it
would
easy.
be faster here. And having 2 healers. Oh well. Or maybe I should just take the Nahida. And I'll go back to the Virgin team with Hu Tao. Right, one last thing.
For the computers built in the 1930s. North of London, at a secret installation, Turing and his wife built Colossus, a computer-like machine designed to break the Germans' encryption code. Colossus compared sequences of letters at a rate of about 3 characters per second. It also doubled as an espresso machine, which people said tasted okay, I guess. Those were its only 2 functions. At the same time, in America, the world's strongest country, engineers were working on a machine that would influence the design for all future computers. America was a powerhouse of manufacturing war machines, from planes to choo-choo trains to tanks. But Americans were notoriously slow when it came to math. American soldiers firing artillery struggled when it came to calculating ranges of numbers over 3 digits. And if the range was above 4 digits, shells could be so inaccurate they could impact China or the moon. Human calculators at the time were no help, as they were busy during the war trying to calculate the world's largest number, believing knowledge of it would give them an edge over the rest of the world. To solve the problem, John Mauchly, a physicist from Pennsylvania, proposed building a giant electronic computer, which, instead of taking many hours to calculate artillery ranges, could calculate them in a shorter number of hours. The army was desperate to win the war, and when they were shown the computer proposal, they responded with, "Shut up, nerd," and continued to focus on slapping Japan silly. So Mauchly scrounged up some investors to make it instead. Mauchly, and a brilliant man who was already balding in his mid-20s, Presper Eckert, set to work on constructing the ENIAC, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and computer, Many times larger than Colossus, nothing like this had ever been conceived. Nearly 100 feet long, weighing 30 tons, and with 2 separate bingo displays, it was the world's first high-end gaming computer. It contained 10,000 capacitors, 6,000 switches, 18,000
would be better
vacuum
to have on
tubes,
Rosario.
and not 1, but 2 espresso machines. Vacuum tubes burn out just like light bulbs. Since the ENIAC contained 18,000 of them, it could be seen from space. If its tubes didn't burn out all the time and needed to be replaced every 2 minutes. After 2 years of work, ENIAC was completed, 3 months after the Japanese surrendered, completely missing the deadline. Because of this, the ENIAC was essentially decommissioned and given to a group of women to play with. Today, this would be of little consequence, but back in the 1940s, this was considered massively degrading, because a woman operating a computer was a second-class felony. Before you feel too sorry for the ENIAC, it's important to remember how primitive this machine was. It couldn't perform any logical operations based on its calculations, and it had to be fully rewired any time it was going to switch tasks. Would you rather be watching this video on the ENIAC than your smartphone? I didn't think so. And I'll bet the ENIAC couldn't even play Crysis on the lowest settings. What a piece of shit. Realizing computers may be a useful utility for the business world, Eckert and Mauchly went off to start their own company. They set off to work on a new machine called the Universal National International Vacational American Computer, or the UNIVAC. The UNIVAC was the first mass-produced computer, designed to be programmable for a variety of purposes. The machine was perfect for the business market, able to encapsulate tasks such as payroll, inventory, and billing. However, the machine lacked an espresso maker, and because of this, Eckert and Mauchly went on to do absolutely nothing important, and history regarded them as failures. Within the UNIVAC, compact magnetic tape drives stored data, and results were automatically printed. Still, very few people actually understood how useful computers could be. This all changed on election night of 1952. The presidential race between Dwight Eisenhower and Adlai Stevenson. Opinion polls and voter data predicted the election should skew slightly in Stevenson's favor. But engineers working in the US government fed data on the candidates into the UNIVAC,
Gotcha. Game's up. Fun's over.
Hey,
So, Eisenhower was given the presidency.
Swear by my sword.
The election
go
results.
and run!
With the success of the back, companies began to see the potential of computers. It was a certain race to the moon that really pushed their evolution.
Here comes the catch. Quietly now.
Out of the frying pan!
1961, America was in second place behind Russia in the race for space. Unfortunately, this race only had two competitors. NASA decided to take home the gold by landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
Eat this!
Astronauts in space couldn't rely on mental math or guess and check methods to perform the calculations needed for their spaceflight. And the computer they would need to use took up an entire room. NASA looked to shrink the problem rather than deal with it directly,
Quietly now.
just like my ex-wife. Fortunately, breakthroughs in miniaturization
Game's
were
up.
already being
Fun's
made.
over.
The first being the transistor, invented in 1947. Transistors are not computers, so they will not be covered in this program. For more information, watch the Modern Day Marvels episode on transistors. Later on, Robert White and Jack Kilchildren, two engineers at rival transistor companies, simultaneously came up with a new revolution in computer miniaturization.
Stars,
Took
shine
a
for
chip
me.
and layered it with an entire network of electrical components,
Let's
creating a
dance.
new chip that was micro in
break the
size, but contained a lot of power for a micro-sized chip. They dubbed it the integrated circuit.
Wait, no, I couldn't actually try out the thing I wanted to
In
try.
1969, two identical computers were built with over 5,000 of these micro-integrated circuit chips.
Whirling snow!
One aboard the lunar orbiter, and the other was left aboard the lunar orbiter by mistake. During the flight to the moon, NASA had to ask the astronauts aboard the Apollo 11 very nicely if they could please run calculations for them while they were in space, promising in exchange to throw them a pizza party upon their return. As Neil Armstrong was slaying some moon pussies, a giant nerd named Ted Hawk was doing some nerd shit like playing D&D or inventing a microprocessor or reading comic books or whatever.
The night
Who
is
cares?
cold. Don't be scared.
Because of the invention of the microprocessor, computers were on their way to being smaller, but they were still far from easy to use. One of the earliest attempts to simplify the computer interface was led by Doug Engelbart.
Propagate! My guiding stars!
Engelbart
My
demonstrated a
apologies!
prototype personal computer in 1968.
Where did he go?
Utilizing a keyboard and a magic pointing automaton he called a mouse,
Let the show begin. The night is cold.
Engelbart showed basic computer functionalities such as clicking on screens, links, and hypertext. Unfortunately, he wanted to call all computers designed by him Engelbart machines. Which was a large deal breaker for most investors. Because of this, Engelbart went on to do absolutely nothing important, and history regarded him as a failure. Some of those in attendance were engineers at the Xerox company.
Wow, that guy got
The
blasted.
future was definitely going to be either computers or panhandling.
Time to go.
They flipped a coin and decided to dedicate their company to building computers. In 1973, they introduced the Alto, which had many features we
about to
find
get
standard in
dicey.
computers
Gotcha.
today, such as a mouse, a graphical interface, built-in networking, and her grandmother accidentally downloaded viruses sent to her in spam emails. The machine left little impact because at $1,800, very few individuals could afford to bring the Alto into their homes. Wait, $1,800? Is that right? That's really not that much, especially for like a brand new revolutionary computer. And surely, like, you can save up for it. That, I forgot inflation. Oh shit. Hang on.
Barbados, guide us.
Wow.
Here comes the
Damn.
catch. Busted.
Yeah, never mind. Damn.
Jaw's over!
Inflation's a bitch. Computers in the past were elite machines, owned by the government, large corporations, superheroes, and universities. Giant mainframes processed payrolls, large spools of magnetic tape saved and retrieved
Things are
records,
about to get
and a
dicey.
single woman named Joanne was hired to do everyone's typing for them. The chip market was growing, and as processing speeds grew, prices declined, and Cool Ranch flavor was introduced. The computer revolution was finally
Wait, no, Ayaka isn't the
and it was
first
in the filthy,
character.
grimy
God
hands
damn
of
it.
these two men, Stephen Wozniak and Steve Jobs. In the mid-1970s, Wozniak and Jobs started to make small personal computers out of their
Stars,
garage.
shine from the night is cold.
They dubbed this
Come
machine
on, we
the
can
Apple
do
I.
it. Let's dance. Whirling
This
snow,
was a pretty
coming
pathetic
along.
achievement, all things
Sylvester.
considered, as thanks to lowering chip costs, inexpensive do-it-yourself-at-home dumb baby computer building kits started showing up on store shelves. The Altair was one of the most popular computer kits, boasting to have enough functionality to rival commercial models.
Yeah.
And at a reasonable $19,000, it soon found itself in nearly every American home.
Cold. Mine to command. The night is cold.
Inspired by computer kits like the Altair to actually do something with their lives, in 1977, Woz Stevens and John Steeves developed the Apple II,
Yeah.
a self-contained computer monitor and keyboard.
My guiding star.
An optional floppy disk drive was also offered for some reason.
Whatever, I can
Mostly,
definitely clear
typical
this.
business computers were priced anywhere from $1,200 to $1,300.
I just need to...
The Apple II was sold at an MSRP $5 lower than that, at $1,195. Because of this, the Apple II soon completely swept the home and business computer market and absolutely obliterated its competitors. The Apple II made it easy for anyone with a collared shirt to awkwardly henpeck at a keyboard as their stepdad watched over their shoulder. The device was remarkably plug-and-play. Any user could immediately begin to program the computer, or buy software from the blossoming software companies,
There we go.
such as the most popular
Ayaka
game of
normal
1977,
running instead of doing the
Smug Frog's
sprint run.
Jumping Catastrophe. The little-known company IBM appeared out of nowhere in 1981 with a competitor to the Apple II, simply known as the
Wacky.
PC. Computer sales boomed slightly in the 1980s, but before